Welcome, everyone, back to another edition of Virtue and Vice Brand of Wrestling right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I am Virtue, once again being joined by my remarkable co-host, Robbie Vice. Man, what is going on?
I'm pretty remarkable. And there's remarkable things happening soon on Wednesday nights. And I'm fairly certain that's what we're going to talk about today, Virtue. So line it all up and let's start knocking these topics down.
So, a year ago, might have been over a year ago, WWE experimented with 1 hour of NXT on USA Network, right? Long before AEW was even announced as a company. So it was over a year ago. And it drew like 800,000. Rob, why do you think WWE did that? Do you think they knew AEW was going to get this big promotion and run a 2-hour show on Wednesday nights on TNT? Why do you think WWE did that when they did that back whenever?
Because NXT is on fire as a brand, and Vince McMahon wants to make as much money as possible. I know they were looking to put it on Fox, before this talks of moving SmackDown to Fox. I think it was FS1, they were talking about putting NXT as a live show on there. So they've been thinking about this for probably a long time, probably since these takeovers started drawing the crazy numbers they have.
Yeah, and let's look at this for a second. NXT does not make WWE money because the weekly TV is on the network, right?
Yeah,
People
absolutely.
get the network for pay-per-views and stuff. Oh, it happens to have NXT. When they do their house shows and traveling, the NXT brand, it doesn't have the big stars on it. They don't draw big at house shows. But what do they make money on NXT? When they do takeovers.
Yeah.
Takeovers are in the same, like 15 to 18,000 seat arenas. Now, even though every takeover doesn't officially sell out, you're still getting, 13, 14,000 in these bigger arenas when you have a major WWE pay-per-view that same weekend?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's All Elite Wrestling doing with their shows? 10, 12, 13, maybe 15 in Vegas? So what's the difference? So why not? Why does Vince McMahon should absolutely want to put another wrestling product of his on a network, right? Because you get advertising money. Everybody knows Fox is getting SmackDown, so a spot opened up on USA. And the fact that they actually drew 800,000 for the Indies, USA might have other shows, on their USA where they barely get a million viewers. Why not take a chance at another wrestling product? So the people out there saying Vince McMahon is starting this war and being reactionary to AEW, I completely don't think so. I think that his plan, WWE's plan, was to always get as many TV deals as possible, because what's with the TV deals, Rob? More cash flow, right?
Yeah, money.
Yeah, and so to me, it was AEW doing the whole throne thing and they are the ones that poke the bear. So the fact is, for these fans, these marks that think that WWE is being reactionary, and of course JR and Jericho are going to say that because they know that's going to cut into a little bit of it, right? NXT's still, those same mark fans, diehards that like AEW, a lot of them like NXT and have liked NXT first, right? Because that's the revolution. That's their different style of wrestling. So how do you think this is going to fare now? Wednesday nights, when this happens,
So,
8 to 10 p.m. I'm just kind of laying it out.
Okay.
TNT, you're going to have the All Elite show for 2 hours live. Now you're going to have NXT, not pre-recorded for the network, live against it during those same 2 hours every Wednesday. What's your take on, and I know we talked about this on the No DQ review, by the way, Go check it out. But what, you kind of think that Vince McMahon is doing. So your take on this whole new Wednesday Night Wars?
I feel like Vince McMahon has watched a lot of Karate Kid and was a big fan of Cobra Kai. Sweep the leg, all right? So you and I have talked about this forever. We already said AEW already exists, and it's called NXT.
Yeah.
So, yes, do I think Vince has been planning to put NXT on national television? Of course he has, because that brings in money, right? Mm-hmm. But I do not think it's coincidence that they decide to put it on USA in the same time slot that AEW is going to be debuting on, because I think he wants to take as much steam out of them as possible. He has done these types of things his entire life. That is how he bought every single territory and put every single one of his competitors out of business, and to the point where he has Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman working for him. So I think Vince McMahon, while he did have plans for this, 100% absolutely This was reactionary to squash any momentum they might have, because this is going to take TV ratings for them away from AEW. I mean, we both agree that that's going to happen. And I bet you their TV deal is hinged on they need to have a threshold that they must maintain for AEW, because they don't have a credibility background like Vince McMahon does that he can promise to pull ratings back.
Now, I know they did that Evolve show during that one of those events, right?
Yeah.
To go head-to-head on the net, but it was on the network.
Yeah.
So NXT's always been on Wednesdays for an hour.
It has.
Now the fact that if you're moving it to now that's what I'm kind of shocked at, that they're moving it to 2 hours, but I get it, more ad revenue, and that's probably what USA needed to fill.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of how I'm looking at it is NXT was always on Wednesdays. So what if AEW had their show on TNT on Tuesday nights? Would Vince McMahon, Triple H and company be putting NXT still 8 to 10 on Wednesdays? Now I want to know what you think about that, because like
no, they would have put it on Tuesday.
You really think they would have put it up against it?
Yeah, see, I think they want to take as much ratings and as many eyes away from AEW as they possibly can. Now, AEW might do a good job of that themselves when they keep bringing people like Orange Cassidy in, but I rest my case with that.
Gosh, man, dude, we talked about that last.
I'm never going to let it go.
No. Well, and that's the thing. I really think that it's coincidence, but it's a great coincidence. It's such a great coincidence that they did it maybe earlier than maybe this wasn't going to happen until 2020. Maybe this wasn't going to happen until we know they wanted to do Fox, right?
And I would concede that, sure.
And maybe this too, maybe they still want to do Fox Sports 1 with NXT. Maybe this on the USA Network is a 2-year deal, and then if it's successful, they might sell a better bill of goods to Fox, and it might move there. So this is clearly Vince McMahon getting more ad revenue, and it's brilliant. Now, how do you think those diehards, and we know who they are, right? I hung out with some of them. They're really grabbing onto this AEW product like they've held on to NXT all this time.
Right.
Do you think they're going to secretly love both? You know that. They're going to love.
Absolutely.
Those people still secretly love the main roster, but it's cool to hate on the main roster, so they don't admit it publicly. But do you think that they're going to pick a side on their social media, even though we know secretly they're going to love both of it? Oh, we'll record one, we'll watch the other, we'll flip back and forth. Yay, us. Do you think a lot of these fans are going to pick a side? I remember back in the day, I didn't pick a side. I loved WCW and WWE. If I had to say I was loyal to one brand, it probably was WWE, because that's what I started watching in the late 80s. But what do you think these fans, I always like talking about the fans, because they're the ones. That's why I'm the troll slayer, okay?
That's
Even
right.
though I changed my shirt for this show. But what do you think these fans are going to do in terms of is it going to be divided 50-50?
Of course it's going to be divided.
What do you think?
Yes.
Let's talk about these marks.
So, first of all, you and I are old enough to remember the Sega versus Nintendo. Everybody, since I can remember my entire life, when there's two different things, you always have to pick a side. We're from Ohio. Cleveland Indians, Cincinnati Reds. You got to pick a side, right? Sega, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, WWE, WCW. There is always people that will hardline pick a side, and they will never admit something cool about the other one until it's over. Yes, they're going to secretly watch both.
I was a Sega fan, Genesis fan, right?
I was too, actually.
But Super Nintendo was a better system, right?
It was better graphics.
Sega, that marketing team those few years, they were better than Nintendo's marketing team.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
They made it a worse product, even though it's still good. But it was, the Super Nintendo was better if you really break it down. And the Sega team made that lesser product better for at least a year and a half before they finally crumbled. But you're right. We're going to be in the thick of that with this NXT versus AEW. I kind of like it. I like it.
I do too.
Wednesday nights is going to be my favorite part of wrestling.
Well, that's something I'll say, and I'll do a cheap plug for us right now. I do not think people will get more of an objective view on both of these shows than they will from you and I, because I don't have a dog in the fight. I want to see the best wrestling possible. I want to talk about both shows. And I think if you go to some of these other places, you're going to get a lot of that extreme bias. But I know if you go with Virtue and Vice, we are almost always going to be universally unbiased and give you exactly what we think.
So are we going to have the show we pitched to Aaron Rift, our AEW review show, are we going to now have to make that a combined AEW NXT show? I mean, we got some NXT people over there. Or are we just going to stick to our AEW?
I say we do whatever we want.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But here's the thing. we got a show going head to head now. I mean, it's more content for us to talk about. There could be something great, Velveteen. What if they let Velveteen Dream that first night against AEW beat Adam Cole for the NXT title?
Right.
That's going to get taught. That's going to take viewers over.
So I think the best format for that would be that we mainly talk about AEW, and I think the last couple minutes we'll say what was our favorite part of Wednesday night this week.
Yeah, and if something big happened, like they did at Rob, can you believe? Like the AEW show was a little lackluster tonight, and guess what? Velveteen Dream just won the NXT title.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm really interested in that now. So, dude, we are bombarded, right? I mean, right now you got Raw Monday nights 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually didn't watch this past Raw. I did the YouTube clip thing.
It's nice, isn't it?
Normally I sit home and watch it in the background, and I'm playing games or doing work.
Switch.
I went to Smashing Pumpkins. So 2 hours in on SmackDown. Now we got 2 hours on Wednesday night flipping back and forth. Some people are probably going to make it 4 hours because they don't want to miss a beat. So they'll record one, watch the full 2 hours of the one, and then go to the other. That's right. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. But, dude, seriously, you still have Ring of Honor trying to, hold on and be relevant as a top, tier D league type major promotion. You got Impact Wrestling. I mean, dude, let's face it, they're on Twitch now. I mean, that's a whole different ballgame. You have Billy Corgan, speaking of Smashing Pumpkins. NWA is going to have some type of TV deal. I don't know what channel. I feel that's going to be very much like the Lawler stuff that used to be on TV back in the day, or the WCW Saturday night, with the studio wrestling with the big door that opened. I have a feeling that's going to be something that perhaps plays on a Saturday night at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. But, dude, we have so many wrestling companies that want to do TV. Is this the modern day territories? When I say that,
Kinda.
Ring of Honor, right? New Japan, still a separate company. I don't. Who cares about these affiliations? You have Lucha Underground's pretty much dissolved, but you got Impact. You got that AAA in Mexico. You have NXT. You have WWE, AEW. That's a lot.
Can you say Impact is really a threat at this point, though? Impact has some good stuff, but I will say maybe Impact is better than Ring of Honor.
Wrestling company.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Ring of Honor, though, is kind of like watching the movie Major League backwards at this point. I don't know how they survive all of this with all these two guys going national.
Dude, and they dropped the ball. They could have had End Zone casts on their product.
That's
and
right.
They were worried about what their fans were going to. Oh, yeah, End Zone casts are getting indie work, but I mean, dude, people are talking. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to get hired by one of the big companies.
I'd rather watch MLW than watch Ring of Honor at this point.
Yeah, and then there's MLW and then Evolve, and I know WWE's trying to still suck in as much as they can under their bubble.
Right.
I mean, it's just a lot. And I'm sorry, but back in the day, I watched WWE for 2 hours on Monday night, Nitro for 2 hours, and I know it went to 3 at some point. And I never recorded the other one. I never did that gimmick, even though I had a VCR.
Yeah,
I just flipped. I flipped. That was the beauty of it, because you'd usually catch something you missed on a replay or highlight if it was really worthy, right? But back in the day, the internet was big there. You didn't really have too many internet clips of it, but you could read about it.
Yeah.
So I never recorded. I watched and I flipped, right? That was and then I would try to find ECW at 2 a.m. in the morning on whatever. That was enough for me, and that was a lot. And WWE even did Sunday Night Heat, Shotgun Saturday Night. We eventually got Thunder from WCW, their Saturday night show, and I didn't really watch any of those.
Yeah.
How do fans watch all of this stuff? And why are these marks so pissed about it? They should be, and I know some of them are happy, but there's a lot of people thinking WWE stupid you for doing that. They should be happy. They're going to get more wrestling.
Anytime shows go head to head, you get the best of it. The best wrestling we've ever had was during the Monday Night Wars, in my opinion. I think you can go back to the golden era. I think you can go back to any era. I think the Monday Night Wars was the best product because both sides had motivation. Everyone complains right now that WWE is going through the motions with everything. Guys are showing up from show to show. They're putting some good work on, but they don't have the passion. Well, I guarantee you, these guys are like any other athlete. They want to win. They care about how they're perceived, and they're going to give it their all every single night. And I think we're going to get a much better product because of it.
Dude, and that's a great point. And usually they'll do that. So like NXT Wednesday nights now, that 1 hour on the network, I don't watch it. I wait for takeover.
Right. Yeah,
it sucks.
same.
But these 2 hours on USA now, they're going head-to-head against AEW. those might be. This is going to be the first time for a long time since that failed Impact experiment on Monday night, and that never was a threat to WWE, that we're going to have to see WWE book a show against the competition. Against the competition where fans are claiming, dude, I've heard people trolling me on Twitter, oh, All Elite Wrestling is going to have a higher rating than SmackDown and or maybe Raw. No. First of all, our good buddy Meltzer, he's aiming low because he's probably working for AEW. But he said 6, 7, 800,000, and I think he since bumped that up, and he did the whole 800 to 1.5 million range. Now, when NXT did that little test over a year ago on USA Network, they drew like 850,000.
Yep.
What do you think that first week? By the way, does NXT debut the same night AEW debuts? Did they pull that, or
no?
is it
They're
starting
2 weeks
earlier?
before.
Okay,
I think right.
So that's interesting. I want to see what those ratings are. Not opposed to AEW, so I'm interested about that. But let's talk about when they're going head-to-head, because that's really when this matters. Call the ratings for the first week they're head-to-head in October. Your guess on both shows.
I'd say 1.2.
But, I mean, pick a number for AEW and NXT.
I think
give you mine.
I think NXT will draw 1.2 million. I think AEW would draw 1 million.
Okay, so you're and that makes sense because add that up, that's 2.2. I know there's some overlap there. SmackDown's around 2 million, right?
Yeah.
A little over. Raw's about 2.5. So, okay. I'm actually going to say AEW is going to win that first week because it's new. Okay? It's new. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Yeah. I think AEW is going to get the million. Maybe 1.1. Well, let's go with, I'm going to go with 1.1 million. And NXT is going to get like 850,000 that first week. And then that's going to create a big stir. Like, oh, they beat them. But I think it'll level out, and I think they'll flip-flop a lot because I think they're going to be reactionary to each other now. And because of that, they're going to do what Russo did and what Bischoff did back in the day. They're going to try to get big angles to get the, you know what I mean? That's why it's called a war.
Yeah, but my thing with that is I think WWE has a much larger base that they can market to. If they start hyping this up, you're going to see some NXT guys probably on Raw getting some excitement there. Yeah. And I guess we're going to finally find out. I still think AEW is a little niche. I think, they're going to be successful, but I still think WWE has a much larger audience, and I think that's going to benefit them. So we'll just see where they go once they carry that ball. But hopefully they don't drop it and they can run across the finish line. But I don't know. I think WWE has a clear advantage because they're a marketing machine. Who markets like Vince McMahon? Nobody does.
Yep. I mean, dude, he can sell a bill of goods to the Saudis. I mean, he literally gave them one of the worst matches of all time. They bought it, and I'm sure they're still going to have him back for more. You know what I mean? That Taker Goldberg match, one of the worst matches of all time because of Goldberg getting hurt. And I'm sure it wouldn't have been any better if he didn't get hurt. But, like, that's the brilliance of Vince McMahon. People sit there and say, oh, you're just a yes man for Vince McMahon and you love his product. Dude, you got to respect the guy for finding ways to make money. Like we talked about on the review. If he wasn't getting money from TV networks and billionaire Saudis, do you think his TV product would be better if attendance and merch was dwindling? Absolutely. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's needless to say. So Jim Cornette talked about a story once. He said, you could have three guys in the business who didn't want to do something. They would be in the office with Vince for 5 minutes and they would all agree to do it. He has this uncanny way of just getting people to do what he wants. He bends people to his will. It's crazy how he does that.
I feel like I'm that way at a small level. I just couldn't become rich off of it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I mean, dude, here we are. We got a Wednesday night war. WWE's minor league product, NXT, going head-to-head live against All Elite Wrestling. And we got Jericho, Omega, Cody, on one side and others, Orange Cassidy. No. Dude, by the way, Kenny Omega, he's a lot better than Buddy Murphy, by the way. But anyway, that's another discussion. Seriously, people, go check the No DQ review out. It's a must-watch. There's some really good stuff. There's always good stuff. But, man, this is one I'm going to watch back tomorrow. I'm going to listen back to it tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But, it might not be tomorrow, depending on when Noel gets this up. But that's pretty much it, dude. We got a war going on, and I'm interested. And to be honest, Wednesday nights is going to be the hottest night of wrestling as a fan because there's going to be a lot of Twitter. There's going to be a lot of sides taken. This is better than this. And I'm going to have fun because Troll Slayer. That's all I got is Troll Slayer, and we are going to be covering AEW. So I can't wait, dude. What about you? You excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. Absolutely. We're going to get, I still feel, at least for a while, that Triple H is going to deliver an NXT TakeOver quality week after week after week. And he's proven they have a better production team in WWE. I'm still not 100% convinced that the AEW guys are going to be able to do the live TV as well as WWE can, because most of those guys, besides Cody, really haven't done weekly TV. And everyone says that's a different beast. Cornette says it. Russo says it. Everyone says.
They'll be looking opposite the hard camera. And,
exactly. Yeah, and if you can get Cornette and Russo to agree with something, even though they don't know that the other one holds that opinion, they're probably right, because they're the greatest minds to ever be in wrestling in the modern history. So
guess what? We'll pick this back up, because we're going to be doing shows about this coming up. And when does this start? October. NXT a little bit earlier, but
I believe so. I would double check my facts on that, but from everything I've heard, I believe NXT will be a few weeks before.
So there you have it. So with that said, Robbie Vice, tell everybody about you before we take off.
So you guys can follow me on Twitter at NoDQVice. I would appreciate a follow. Give me any feedback, any topics you want to talk about. Tell me I'm the smartest guy in the room. Tell me I'm an idiot. Whatever you guys want to do, let's go from there. And there is a lot of places you could find me, such as the No DQ Review. But Virtue, if they want to catch us talking together like this, where is the place that they can see us the most?
Well, I would say right here on the BigVitoBrand.com for Virtue and Vice, or as Noel likes to put it, Vice and Virtue. I'm not a big fan of that. My name coming second, brand of wrestling. But, we still do the stuff on No DQ. You are part of the review every week now. And I'm sure you'll be on future panels and more pay-per-view predictions and stuff like that. And we still kind of do some stuff for good old Andre Corbeil now that he's got his YouTube page back. So we were going to record something tonight, but I'm trying to come up with something that's different than this. And I don't like overlapping too much, so we might wait a few more days so we can get something cool to talk about. But yeah, you can see Robbie Vice and me on all of those platforms. So with that said, I am Virtue. You can follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. Go to my Facebook, nodq.com/Virtue with the lowercase v. For Robbie Vice, I am Virtue. This is Virtue and Vice, brand of wrestling, right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. See you next time.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Just ain't no good. I mean, the macaroni soggy, the peas all mushed, and the chicken tastes like wood. So you try to play it off like you think you can by saying that you're fun. And then your friend says, Mama, he just being polite. He ain't finished. Oh, that's good. And so your heart starts pumping and you think of a lie and you say that you already ate. And your friend says, man, there's plenty of food, so you pile some more on your plate. But while the sticky food's steaming, your mind starts to dream of the moment it's time to leave. And then you look at your plate and your chicken's slowly rotting into something that looks like cheese. So you say,
Vape Supply Plus in Port Richey, Florida is your place to go. One-stop vape shop, CBD, devices, mods, and more. 400 flavors, 30 brands. Vape Supply Plus, Port Richey, Florida.